Hello everybody. In this video, I wanted to go over at least what my experience was with the Rock Island Armory 1911 after running 1,000 rounds through the weapon, which was done before I even started doing YouTube videos and stuff. But I wanted to at least go over at least my experience with the weapon. And as I said in a previous video, when you initially get typically when you get a 1911 pistol from Rock Island Armory, the if you go with like a basic ordinary model, is to where it comes in the weapon comes in like a parkerized finish or coating, and it's to where that coating has more of a texturous feel to it and somewhat of a it's somewhat porous and all. And the in my expect at least when I bought this one, is to where not only was it where the sliding frame had the parkerized coating, like most of the outside part of the bell had the parkerization on it as well, and all. So in a few other areas on the inside part of the weapon, that which I knew, depending on situation, can cause issues. And when I was, when I was initially on the market for getting a 1911, when I was doing a bunch of researching and looking up videos and all about it, about what my options were on like different variations of the 1911 price ranges and such, I stumbled upon that's how I came across knowing about the Rock Island Armory brand. So, and a lot of people, I guess, had a similar issues where because of the way the I guess some of the parts got parkerized on internal parts, and it caused issues. So I went ahead and one of the before I started the 1,000 round rounds through it, I the first thing I did was I went ahead and went through the process of having the bell, you know, where I could have that all polished and everything, and any other internal parts that would have been negatively affected, and so forth. And then, you know, that way it'd be all nice and smooth. Didn't have, wouldn't have to worry about, because anybody who knows anything about firearms, if the internal parts has any sort of rough edges or anything that in there that's going to cause hiccups and all, it ain't going to matter how good of ammunition and all you have going with it. It's going to hang up because of, things that are, counterproductive going on. So that's why I went ahead and got the, internal parts done where it would be nice polished, and where it won't be where the parts can stay intact, not be messed up, but still be better functional wise and so forth. Now, when I did my 1,000 rounds, I've only had maybe 4 to 6 issues where I the cell casings wasn't after firing around, which they wasn't all back to back. They were like pretty spread out. It was like once here, 5-10 minutes later, one there, that kind of thing. But it was no more than like maybe 5 or 6 at most of stove piping, which I attribute that to, because during that time frame it was still in that break-in period where the weapon is still more stiff than anything and needs to be loosened up a bit by actually practicing with the weapon at a range and stuff. And so after the 1,000 rounds, I stripped the weapon down to where I could clean it and everything. Because with 1911s, in my case, it lucked out where I could run the 1,000 rounds, and all and all before cleaning. But nonetheless, with 1911s, it's one of those weapon systems that you'll need to keep it clean for the best possible performance, presuming that nothing else is wrong. But when I stripped it down, cleaned it, and put it back together, there was some issues that were going on. And after a process of elimination and seeing what, you know, about possible issues that was causing the problems I had, which would be known as hammer fall or hammer follow, where hammer wouldn't stay back, and it was working perfectly fine before cleaning and all, no issues. But then when I put it back together, for whatever reason, hammer wasn't staying back. So, and I got to wondering, like, what's causing that? So after doing some digging, I'm gonna use a good intact one to first to kind of show what I mean. If I don't know, um, hopefully it'll show up good. But like like I said, hopefully this is showing up decent enough. But basically, on a good sear leaf spring like this one, it'll have middle the pieces will have more of like a 90-degree angle and edge on it to be like contact points. And typically, as long as everything's nice and square, even, and nothing else is going on, it should run fine. But this is the original shear leaf spring that I had when that was in the weapon when I first got it. But as you can tell, that that middle piece which contacts the shear and 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 all, it's no longer square. It's more like, hang on, hopefully I got this way y'all can see it, but it's no longer square. It's more like a ramp feature on it now. So it's no longer 90 degrees and has more of a of a like a ramped doings. I don't know if it's just the way that it was. I don't know if it was like a faulty thing as a result of the material that it was made out of or what. But that after, like I said, after doing a process of elimination and you know looking up all the possible reasons why hammer follow would occur and everything, I found that my original seal spring ended up getting badly worn down. So which thankfully I have plenty of extra seal springs and all to where if I have issues, I could with the spring, I could just replace it. But aside from those few issues, I had no other. Aside from those that I just mentioned, I had no other issues. But like I said, the far as the stove piping, I'm attributing that to more so the fact that which with most weapons, they're still when you first get them and they're brand new, it's likely that the weapon's going to be more stiff as to why it may not eject cell casings properly. It may not be an extractor issue. It may just be that the weapon's still, stiff. Which after the recommended break-in period is to where after that given break-in period, it should be fine afterwards. But like I said, which that's the thing about the 1911s. They're gonna for a break-in period, you'll need to run more of closer to 500 rounds or more to really get it broke in good. Because with most 1911s, the sliding frame, most of the weapon is made out of all steel parts typically. So it's going to take longer for it to really get broken in good, where it's not so stiff. And it seems like, especially for those who are new, it seems like that's something that's overlooked and all. Like, but like I said, that it was as far as stove piping that was during the time frame of breaking the weapon in. So I'm thinking it was more so in I'm like I said, I'm attributed to the weapon being stiff and all. But after that last, and it was like early on of stove piping, within the first hundred, couple hundred round, first 100 rounds or so, and after that is I had no more stove piping and all. But and like I said, of course they had that issue with the leaf spring, but I guess like I said, I don't know if it was a result of. Oh, sorry, but that was the only other issue I had was with the leaf, the seal spring leaf spring piece. But other than that, I had no other issues. But and all, but at least in my experience, I had that's all the issues I had was like maybe six stove pipes at most, and then the seal spring wearing out on me and all. But that was like the only issues I've had with the weapon. It, and outside of that, it's with the exception of those little mishaps with the weapon. I, it's been a real good, at least in my experience, it's been a real good pistol up up to this point. But thank y'all for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.